Doing on it. Morning, Reed. Sneak Reed. How did he did sneak in? Huh? Yeah, he snuck in. He did. Okay, are we on? Was recording? Go ahead and call this board of supervisors meeting to order, and we welcome everyone. Anyway, it finally turned cool. A little late this year, but we'll take it. Now, if we can get some winter rain, we'd all be happy. The first order of business, I'll ask Supervisor Ron Campbell to lead us in the pledge.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll next go to call to the public. Is there anyone that would like to address the board and call to the public? Morning, Jean.
Yes, I'm Jean Swenson and Shorter and other people. With engineering part-time, and I just wanted to give you a little update on next year's AmeriCorps. I'm gonna hand out the concept form.
Thank you.
We are going for it again to do the rock dams on the Lazy B on the watershed above Franklin. The concept form is due on Friday. Turned out it really was quite a bit easier since most of it was already done. I just updated how we done the camping. Instead, it was acceptable to them. This is into them to see if they have any things they want to do. While I think it will be, I guess I've been counting on getting accepted again. Should not be a given because there's a lot of competition for AmeriCorps volunteers, and those of you who met them know what a good group they are. And also, we don't get the bonus that we had before for being new. The other thing is they've upped the match slightly, but I think we were well covered by the match because of the things that we were providing to them. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I'll do the math carefully on that, and I'll let you know what I hear about the concept form approval or denial.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in call to the public? Yes. Good morning.
Morning, all. My name is Nancy Spencer Morris, and I'd like to address the board concerning the matter of the variance granted to Brittany Wallace. Given the applicant's I find your decision to grant a rezoning variance to Brittany Wallace regarding parcel 300-57-074A arbitrary and capricious. This egregious decision is contradictory to regulations and principles set forth in the Greenland County zoning regulations and Arizona revised statutes. The board obviously did not incorporate concerns of negatively impacted land and homeowners when granting this variance, nor did the board address questions about seemingly procedural and regulatory violations. Given the applicant's implied intent, the board deliberately avoids setting a time limit for the RVs to be present and to establish who exactly would live in the house. These stipulations are most pertinent to the matter of this variance. I and other objecting neighbors question the legality of the permits issued, as well as the process taken by the board. Scrutiny of the board is not above the law, and we expect a full accounting of how this decision was made within the parameters of the county zoning regulations and Arizona state statutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, go ahead, please.
Morning, board.
Good morning.
Morning.
Paul Easley, Lieutenant with Greenland County Sheriff's Office. I wanted to bring to light a consent agenda for ETFs that are being signed today. I did turn in a request for him to speak on that. I know I only have 3 minutes. I wanted to throw in a little more.
Excuse me, Paul, you can, when that agenda item comes up, you can speak then.
Okay, I will.
If that's what you,
I will.
Okay.
Just for time frame.
Yes.
I may run out of time with that one.
okay, no problem. I'm just,
I appreciate it. I wanted to bring to light Danielle Rodriguez's employee transaction form. We have a county policy 114.h says an employee who is voluntary demoted or non-disciplinary reasons may be retained at the same salary rate held prior to the demotion, subject to the approval of the department head. The sheriff did sign an ETF for this and submitted it, and I understand through email you received a different one today. And I wanted to bring a light to you the policy that's in place, and the department head did approve it as per the policy. Thank you.
thank you. Mr.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Daniel Cervantes, Clifton, Greeley County resident. I'm here this morning to extend a goodbye and good luck to our three retiring county officials, but most especially to Chairman Richard Lunge, who I understand is ready to embark on a different kind of mission with his wife of many years, to Supervisor David Gomez, Supervisor Ron Campbell, welcome back. To our county attorney, Gary Griffin, welcome back. To our newly elected recorder, our newly elected sheriff, welcome aboard. Did I forget anyone? And to our county administrator, Derek Rapier, and his staff, thank you for the work that you continue doing, and happy holidays to everyone present at this meeting. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anyway, yes, Mark. Mr. Crandall, excuse me.
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, my name is Mark Crandall. I'm the current chief deputy at the Greenland County Sheriff's Office. I wanted to get up here and call to the public. I know I only have 3 minutes, but I wanted to hand you guys a couple of documents before we get to that agenda item. But I also wanted to talk about some issues that I've noticed over the last 8 years. The first issue, obviously, was back in 2017, the first board meeting I attended. Sheriff Sumner brought to the board about the inconsistency with the pay scale, and that it needed to be fixed and adjusted however it needed to be so. I don't believe that that's occurred. I mean, even at the time, the county manager, Kay Gill, agreed that it wasn't just for the sheriff's office, but it needed to be throughout the entire county, which I completely agree with. We need to get it caught up to the times. The other thing that I would like to bring to the board is back in 2017, I promoted to patrol sergeant from a deputy's position. In late 2017, early 2018, Sergeant John Menon also promoted to patrol sergeant. It was the beginning part of 2018 where Sheriff Sumner actually put before the board about the pay increase for sergeants to be above their subordinates, which would have been standard across the board on any agency that law enforcement transfers to or laterals to. At that point in time, we were told that anywhere you go, subordinates make more than their supervisors. I don't necessarily believe that is true. maybe in the long run with overtime and all that kind of stuff, maybe they would make more, but the actual true numbers of the salary, the supervisor would typically always be higher. From my research that I found, supervisor are always starting out higher than the highest paid deputy, in law enforcement. So I do want to bring that back up. I think that may play a vital role later on in the board meeting. I would like to hand out these documents now instead of later, so you guys may have a chance to review them. The documents are an ETF that was signed by myself and Sheriff Sumner, and then another one that was created. I'm not sure when it was created, but I believe it was created by Human Resources. I believe there's a major pay discrepancy in there. And then the other document was actually created by Sheriff Sumner himself. And it's also got some notes down at the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anyone else in call of the public? Yes, good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. I'm Pam Willie, Greenlee County Chief Deputy Assessor. Jojo was on her way to the ACO conference, so she couldn't be here, but she wanted me to share with you the good news that our office was awarded a summit award this year from the Arizona Association of Counties for our Project CARE, which stands for Community Awareness Tax Relief Effort, which is essentially a marketing campaign to promote awareness of the exemptions that we have through the office, including the newest one for disabled veterans that was approved a couple of years ago. You might have noticed in your tax bills a flyer regarding this information, and we want to thank the Treasurer's Office for their collaboration with us and putting those in the tax bills the last 2 years. And through Project CARE, we've received about a 200% increase in calls into our office regarding the exemptions and senior freezes. So we're really pleased with the results. We'll receive the award at the ACO conference this week on Friday during the closing breakfast. And I'll have one more announcement that on behalf of the Greenlee County Chamber of Commerce, I wanted to invite you to their December mixer, which is next week on Wednesday, the 18th. It is hosted by and sponsored by FMI. They're going to award their community investment grant funds during that time. And it includes a dinner. It's at Morenci Club. And if you're interested, I left more information on the counter by the door on the way out. Thank you.
Very much. Anyone else in call of the public? If not, we'll proceed with the agenda. We'll go to agenda item 2. The Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of Greenlee County Public Health Service District. And after the order of business, we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. A, consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda listed.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. We are now convened as Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greenlee County Flood Control District. And after the order of business, we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors following these items. A, consent agenda.
So move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We are now convened as the Board of Supervisors, and we will go to agenda item 4. Mr. Rapier, County Administrator.
Thank you. It is a small token of appreciation that we acknowledge those elected officials who are leaving office. I'm actually going to give you, Chairman, the opportunity to present those. Mr. Sumner, our sheriff, is not able to attend today. He has some other duties with respect to his family. but I think his time in the county should be recognized regardless whether he's here or not. And then I'm gonna give your plaque, Mr. Chairman, to the vice chairman, present to you, because we'd be remiss not to recognize your contributions to the county. And we'll get pictures after the meeting.
Okay. Well, since Tim's not here, you know, Tim and the board hadn't always seen eye to eye, but I have to admire Tim in a lot of aspects. He's a man that, when he believes something to be value, he fights to hold those values, and I respect that. I hope him the best of luck in whatever he does, to him and his family. And Tim has suffered some with loss of family members, and our hearts went out to him when he did lose his son. But even then, Tim stood tall. He is very well respected, and with that, Tim, I will hope, and this board wishes you the best of luck. Sherry, we never made the news, and thank you. There again, elections and recordings, lots of business transactions occurred through your office. And if they're not recorded properly, later on, someone's going to suffer. And you and your staff did an outstanding job in all your duties as county recorder. And this board and the constituents of Greenlee County, thank you for that. And thank you for not making the news too. With that, if you come forward, Greenlee County hereby recognizing Sherry R. Venero for her 12 years of dedication service to Greenlee County.
If nobody else.
Chairman, I think it's also important to note that Sherry's service with the county did not begin with her election to county recorder. She began in the rank and file and worked her way from one department to another and up through the recorder's office to take these responsibilities. And while you acknowledge we did not make the news, I will tell you that Sherry lost a lot of sleep making sure we did not make the news. She did make several deposition calls, however, for election-related lawsuits. And I know on behalf of our staff, your staff and the board's office, we really appreciate having worked with her. And I echo the chairman's comments regarding Sheriff Summer as well. There's been a lot of good done. I appreciate his passion.
And Sherry, excuse me for not acknowledging your others, but you know, at my age, I just remember yesterday.
Sometimes.
Okay.
And last but not least, you know, I wasn't prepared for this, but you know what? If I was, we'd probably be here till 5 o'clock today. Speaking about this gentleman right here, that Richard Dunn, for his 16 years of dedicated service to Greenlee County. I think it probably seems more than 16 years to him. It probably seems like 32 years because talk about a dedicated supervisor that has done a lot of good for this county. Every time you mentioned his name, whether it was here or abroad, everybody knew Richard. And every organization that he was attached to, he gave 100%. And I thank him for all that. I won't thank him for leaving because he's gonna terribly be missed. And like I said, every organization that he belonged to, he was on top of everything. I mean, every time we turned around, he was down visiting the legislature, he was visiting senators, he was always busy. And he will be missed terribly. So from the Board of Supervisors of District 3, from January 1, 2005 to December 31st, 2012, and then left on vacation for a little bit and came back on January 1, 2017 through December 31st, 2024. Richard, you have become a dear friend of mine and colleague as a supervisor, and I always looked up to you when I needed some advice, and I thank you for that, and the entire county thanks you for all your service that you did to this great county of ours. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I just would want to echo some of that because, you're out of order. He was a great mentor to me when I first started. I was physically thrown into the fire when I first started. Some had to deal with flames, some had to deal with politics, but he was a great leader, a great mentor, and you'll be sorely missed. You're a great man. Your moral compass is exactly what's needed for this job. So anyway, great work. Thank you.
You know what, gentlemen, why don't we do it right underneath this?
Yeah, that's
Joe.
I'm on the walls for a purpose.
Yeah.
Look at it. You
Look at me.
all right.
Gave this plaque to cover my belly, right? Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think I appreciate any job, you're no better than the people you work with. And we have had fantastic people to work with. In every department, every employee, you make a difference. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 5. Mr. Larson, the talkative Mr. Larson.
Photographer a lot.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is hopefully a fairly simple agenda item for you. We're making progress with this tier 1 project, the new public works building. And the request before you is to go out to bid for the building shell. And after that, after we go to bid and award that bid, then we will subsequently come back to you with the request to go to bid for the construction of it. So this is just for the building itself.
All right, well, I move that we approve to go out to bid for the 50 by 100 metal building to serve as the new public works facility constructed on the existing public works campus between the airport and the SR 78.
I second that motion.
You have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? This has been a long time coming. Anyway, no discussion. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Larson.
Thank you. That was easy. I hope they're all this.
We'll go to agenda item 6. Mr. Repair, County Administrator.
Thank you. This is an organizational meeting, excuse me, organizational agenda item we usually hold in this meeting every year. With Mr. Lunt retiring. We have a new board member coming on, but if the board is so inclined, you could vote and make those various assignments among yourself today, or you could put it off to the first meeting in January. But if you're prepared, we've listed the assignments that have traditionally been taken on by individual members. Obviously, those assignments, essentially you represent the board on behalf of Greeley County to the organization, whether it's CSA, LPC, or whether it's ECO or whatever. And on big issues, you've always made it the habit to come back and bring those issues before the board and take that position with you. So I can say, as listed are those who currently hold those various positions or assignments. Each of you currently have as well a NACO committee that you serve on. Those are, of course, appointed by the president of NACO for that year, their annual appointments. And those are applied for. The ones that you have served on have been generous and given those who want to serve on those the opportunity to do so, but those will be done through NACO. So having introduced that, staff is certainly prepared either to go with assignments that you choose today and begin to implement those, or if you decide to wait, we can do that too.
What is your pleasure?
Supervisor Gomez, do you mind if I make a motion and then we can have a discussion after? Sure. If I'm off kilter? All right, go for agenda item 6A. I move that the chairman of the board be, for this upcoming year, be Supervisor David Gomez, vice chairman be Ron Campbell, myself. SEGO board member and NACO Economic Development to stay with Supervisor Gomez. Mexican Wolf Committee and the NACO Ag and Rural Affairs Steering Committee stay with me, Ron Campbell. And then the ECO Eastern Arizona Counties organization representative be Supervisor David Gomez. And the CSA LPC representative be the incoming supervisor of Mr. Will Werner.
That was in the form of a motion.
Yeah.
I second that motion.
If I might ask for one clarification, we listed the NACO appointments to the Economic Development, Rural Affairs, Ag and Rural Affairs. Those actually aren't made by us.
Okay.
And so we should have removed that. That's on me. I apologize for that.
With those edits.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And you gentlemen certainly are a majority, but I have no problem with it, other than, maybe the chairman of the board, maybe it'd be more kosher if Will was there and could support that, because that will involve him next year in leadership. And that's my suggestion, but you certainly, each of you gentlemen carry a vote.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have done some transition meetings with Mr. Wern. I believe he would be supportive of this. And I, obviously, he would have, if it needs to be brought up again, it could be done so. But in my transition meetings, I believe he is supportive of the assignments.
My motion stands just based on experience and current leadership skills and knowing the workings of it. That's my motion stand.
And that's fine. But I would, that's just who I am.
We agree to disagree all the time.
There is a motion on the floor. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very, very much. Next, we'll go to 6B.
We have put before you a tentative meeting schedule that is based on our current default rule. It also accounts for Monday holidays where we bump that meeting back a day typically. As I indicated before, I know that Mr. Wern in his preparing for office has had some constituents suggest that maybe a different meeting time might be better. We asked, and the board already adopted, that our first meeting of 2025 would be on January 7th, which follows our normal rule. We put this out there so that you'd know where the dates fall. We know that, for example, the first meeting in March conflicts with the NACO conference. And it seems as though that as we go through the year, there's always something that comes up. For example, we've looked at, there is speculation at this point that there will be an election, statewide election in May, on a state land education issue. If that's the case, those workings and that timing may interrupt a meeting. So we post these as tentative dates. You could adopt it today, but I wanted you to be familiar and see kind of how it fell out on the calendar, looking forward. If you'd like to wait until January 7th to adopt the tentative meeting, or you could adopt today, and if after discussion with our new supervisor on the board, if that yields a different plan with meetings, then you could change those tentative dates in January. We make changes when the board moves a meeting, and we post the new tentative dates on our website.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is there any issue with deferring this till January 7th?
There is not, because the first meeting is set.
Yeah, that would be my preference.
I would agree. Okay, with that, a motion to table this until the next, agenda item 6B until the next, till the January 7th meeting would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if this says discussion and possible action, do we still need to table it or just give you direction?
You could actually, in that circumstance, the chair could simply table it. You could vote to table it. You could simply not take action and put it on a future agenda.
We can go through the motions.
Please.
I move that we table agenda item 6B until the January 7th meeting of the board.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have motion and a second. It's on debate. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll go to agenda item 7. County Administrator, 7A, County and State Budget and Legislative Issues.
I'd like, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to defer first to Austin to talk about a proposal that, and I want to emphasize this next word, may have budget implications. And that is a proposal that we floated around the county. We've done some research regarding 4-day work week. Austin's in the process of preparing a more deep analysis so that you make a decision later date. I'd like him to introduce what we're doing, how that may affect budgets, and what we intend to propose to you probably in our first meeting in January. Thank you.
So yeah, as Derek mentioned, it could have budget implications. Again, this would be proposing a work week of Monday through Thursday for the county. It would be a 7 to 5 work week. I'm going to have a presentation for a subsequent meeting to go over that, to have all the details so we understand what happens with holidays. With this has been discussed with the elected officials here. Everybody is on board with this. Looking to do this. That meeting will entail what public notice looks like, all that kind of stuff to make sure we do a good job of it. But going back to what Derek said, it could have budget implications. We may see some savings on our Fridays. Usually that's pretty small. Really, this is more of a retention feature. So attraction and retention.
Just, I'd like to get some, I mean, if you've gotten any feedback or anything, from our employees or whatever, if there's a way to put that together.
Okay. Nope, we can definitely do that.
Yeah,
We've got feedback from the electeds. I can ask them to go to their employees as well, so we can get that, so we can get a little more
Well, that's
formal.
positive, negative, what I
Yep.
mean? We're trying to do what's right for our family, our Greenlee County family. and
Agreed.
Want to make sure that we're
Yep,
listening. to
that's
both sides.
easy to do. We can get that out there. We should be able to get that for that meeting in January.
With that, I'll address first the legislature. Both Senate and House leadership have been elected. They have both made committee chair and vice chair assignments. The House has filled out all of their membership assignments. There's 3 new committees. On the Senate, I'm just trying to see, I know that there was talk about assigning members. That work has probably been done. I've not found the list yet. There was an interesting thing that happened in both houses. On the House side, which had a more Freedom Caucus slant to the membership in the last session has actually come back a little bit more somewhat to the middle, if you will, even though the gap between Republicans and Democrats has increased by 1, so there's a gap of 2, so now it's gone to 3. Yeah. And then in the Senate, they've actually moved in some ways a little bit further towards the Freedom Caucus side of things. Some of the committee assignments reflect that. For example, Wendy Rogers, who is the chairman of the Elections Committee, is also now going to be the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is one of the most important committees there behind appropriations and rules. How this plays out in the coming legislative year will be mostly a study of politics rather than policy. The budget is in sound shape. It's not in great shape, but it's not looking at a deficit. The amount of overage, as I'm going to show you here in just a second, looks a lot like ours. It's in the black, but not by a whole lot. And there could be a few small things that could make that turn negative and be a deficit budget. But there's also a few things that can make it improve. Certainly economic activity helps. But with that being said, the race for governor in 2026 begins on January 1st, if it hasn't begun already. And that will create political pressures on policy as well as on the budget process to try and position, each party trying to position themselves to retain the governor's office and the other key offices in the state. I would expect that there will be some things passed in the legislature that the governor is likely to veto again. I think and some of those we've seen 2 years in a row. We may see them slightly tweaked, and we may see them in the very same form that they were presented before. Part of that is to put her on record as being against whatever policy the legislature thought was the best. That seldom, this climate seldom creates opportunities, but it likewise also presents some protections. It's unlikely that major legislation will pass in this kind of environment, even in some cases where there should be some, water being one of them. If it doesn't rain, as Chairman Lunt has, he always remarks, and he comes from an area where without rain, you didn't make a living. But without rain, it also puts higher pressure on our water situation. So I don't know whether that problem will be solved or not. Usually by this time of year, there are 2 or 3 themes that have already emerged as the leading themes for the legislative session. I haven't heard those. There's talk about this and that, but really nobody's talking about, we're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about whatever it is. Those themes change during the course of the legislative session. But at this point, in the first time in recent memory, I'm not hearing any themes out there. So I expect that we will be mostly in a watch and see if we need to defend. We have great partners in CSA and ACO and others that help us keep ears to the ground. But legislatively, I'm not expecting a whole lot to begin with. With that said, I will update the board real quickly. By now, we are all quite familiar with this. Let's start here with the state shared sales tax revenue. You'll see that this month's revenue is the highest single month revenue that we've had in the year. Austin, can we catch those lights? We are at 483, which is below the 3-year average by about 20%, but 18% above year over year from last year. So we're seeing continued steady revenue. It's hard in some ways to look back over the last 5 years and judge whether this 483 is a strong revenue. It's certainly lower than we've seen for the last 3 years, but I think we'll see with the passage of more time that those last 3 years were the anomaly, not the normal. Again, rolling down here as we do, this figure, the 401 represents if revenues continue at the same pace we've seen them for the first 5 months of the fiscal year, we would expect to be $401,000 over our revenue projection for state shared sales tax. Again, that's a good position. It's a steady position. It's not a strong position. We're not overshooting our forecasts by 25-30%. But it's certainly better to have this be a black number, as they say, as opposed to a red number. Looking at the county sales tax side of this. Again, we've seen the highest single month revenue intake on our half-cent sales tax that we've seen throughout the year. This month is slightly above average. You'll see on the year that, again, if revenues were to continue at our current rate throughout the year, we would be $20,000 over our projected revenue. I credit the board for having adopted a budget based on a very conservative budget number. We saw what happened at the tail end of last year. It began to trail off. It has steadied, but it has not risen to levels that it was before. We know very well the source of these funds and where they come from, and it is tied directly to economic activity on the Hill. They are great partners, and we are blessed to live in a county with such a steady partner. For us, I say I commend the board for having been consistent and steady and conservative. It makes it easy for us to live within our budget. But that 20,000 on the county's shared sales tax and this 401 are combined up here. If revenues continue at the pace they have for the first 5 months of the year, then we would end up approximately $420,000 over projected revenue. That puts us in a good position. I don't have a good sense at this point, looking back into the year before, to see this trend 484, 492 at the end of, and that's these here. They're consistent with what we're seeing in the first 2 quarters of this year. And I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? No questions. Let's just hope it keeps going.
Yes, agreed. Now, I will bring up only one more thing, and that is discussing with one of the revenue streams we've enjoyed. It's a mixed blessing, but one of the revenue streams we've enjoyed as a Western state is this Secure Rural Schools Act. Brief history, that replaced National Forest there forever and ever. But it's always meant to be temporary. It's been about, and the chairman will know, but about 15 years since that's been in place. It was supposed to be a 3 to 5 year program phase out. Craig Sullivan at CSA told me just last Friday that he's not hearing that it's going to be renewed. And with the new Congress and Senate and executive branch that are all looking for efficiencies in government, sometimes a program can be labeled as inefficiency when in fact it's simply not understood. Now, if SRS goes away, there should be a dollar for dollar replacement in PILT funding. That's not always been the case. And you'll recall one of the most conservative senators we've had in a long time, Jeff Flake, when he came to the Senate, saw PILT as a giveaway. He did not understand what it was and why that's there. And over time, he became a good supporter of it. We will see how this Congress reacts to PILT. The ranking Democrat on the Natural Resources Committee in the House, Representative Grijalva, is stepping down from that position. He said this is his last term. There's been many of the older 20-year, 30-year veteran congressmen on the Democratic side step down from chairmanships. That may signal a change in how the Democratic Party approaches some of these cuts. But I've heard of this activity. I had not heard the nickname's been given, but the Doge Committee. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was Dogecoin. It stands for Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. This is the group that Vivek Ramsway and Elon Musk are to head up and find waste. One of the truths about the federal government is very much like the state government. A lot of the spending that goes on at the federal level is program spending. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. That takes a big chunk. And with only about 22 to 20% left of the budget that's discretionary, they may be difficult to find $2 trillion. But when they're looking for quarters in the couch cushions, those who don't know otherwise start looking at things like PILT and SRS. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll keep our eye on the mood, how that goes. We will certainly make sure that Representative Cisco Money knows how important those revenue streams are to us. One implication of SRS is that money we receive by way of PILT cannot be redistributed to schools. We don't have a statutory authority for that. We have a statutory mandate under the SRS. And so that has ripple effects as well to our schools. But again, we will keep an eye on that. We'll keep you updated on that for, as we develop our own budget and the budget implications as it hits countywide. That's my report on budget and legislative affairs.
One thing on this, even if they fully fund that, because those SRS counties and especially Oregon, Washington, some of those heavily forest counties that their schools are completely run on SRS, secure rural schools. They will come into the denominator, and so what we get will be less and considerably less, even though it's a dollar per dollar trade-offs. The denominator with quite a few counties coming in and adding to that denominator, we will see a lot less from forest source revenue, and that will hit the county's bottom line. Anyway, I just made that comment. If you understand the dynamics there, it's you can see why it's been so important that we go back and fight for those things.
It will be something that will be high on every Western state's radar. This World Series that divides more on physical lines rather than political lines. Like say Oregon, very much a Democrat leading state. They are one of our best allies with Arizona and Utah and others that are very much conservative leaning states. So that would be an odd issue that we look for and I'd like to be addressed at the neighborhood conference as well. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Anything else, Derek?
No, thank you.
Then we'll turn the time over to Bianca. Bianca for calendar.
Okay, tomorrow, ACO conference starts tomorrow, going to the 13th. Small counties is tomorrow, the 11th. CSA on the 12th. WIFA on the 18th. And we won't have a second board meeting for this month. The 23rd, Renzi and Duncan schools winter break starts for 2 weeks. Christmas Day, the 25th, our offices are closed. That's all I have for December.
Okay, there is an ECO meeting tomorrow, also the Eastern Counties Organization meeting. Starting at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
January 1st, Wednesday, our offices are closed. New Year's Day, Duncan schools do begin back on the 2nd, which is Thursday. Renzi schools begin Monday, January 6th. Our first board meeting for the year is January 7th. CSA new supervisor orientation begins on the 15th, starts on the 15th and it goes to the 16th. Small counties, ECO and WIFA on the 15th and CSA on the 16th. January 20th, our offices are closed for Martin Luther King. And we do have, I did put the board meeting for the 22nd, that Wednesday, just following our regular meeting dates, but we'll change that if need be. LPC begins on the 24th. And they're every Fridays after that.
Question from Derek on the 15th of January, is school scheduled to be at that CSA?
Yes. We've introduced the introductory thing to him and CSA has also invited him.
Okay.
And he and I are planning on attending that together.
Okay. Great.
That's all I have for January. February, again, I have our board meetings scheduled for the 4th. First Tuesday, LPC on the 7th, small counties on the 13th, ECO and WIFA also. County managers on the 14th and LPC. Our offices are closed for President's Day on Monday, February 17th. Our meeting would be on Wednesday, the 19th. CSA Board of Directors on the 20th, LPC on the 21st and the 28th. And that's all I have for February. I don't have ECO. I didn't.
So they moved ECO and small counties the week before the CSA meeting?
I do have ECO.
Is
That's,
that right?
It's very possible that small counties would not be the week before. ECO may have not coordinated their calendars yet with CSA. So we will straighten that out and make sure that they're on the correct dates. Okay.
I mean, SEGO, I didn't have SEGO, sorry. For February, I didn't see anything.
It's on, I believe the next board meeting is in March.
Okay.
So you'll check to see if that's correct, if small county is the week before instead of the week of CSA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Most likely they're supporting the court.
Anything else to add to the calendar? Anything else, Bianca?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll go to agenda item 8. And we have the consent agenda. We do have some on agenda item 8F. We do have 3 individuals that want to address that. So we'll pull that and then approve the consent agenda all but agenda 8F, and we'll address that and have a motion to address that. So a motion to accept the consent agenda with exception to F would be in order.
I so move.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. We will now go to agenda item 8F. And I have Paul Easley, you've asked to address the board on this.
Good morning, board.
Good
Paul Easley, Lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office. I wanted to address, starting off specifically my ETF that's up for consent approval. The sheriff and I had signed an ETF, which you did not receive a copy of. I'll provide a copy to you.
Thank you.
This ETF, the salary on it was consistent with other senior deputies pay scale. Based on my years of experience, I am at 27 years, 10 years of reserve, but I have a vast knowledge of education and experience to go with that. I've held many different roles, from patrol officer to investigator, patrol sergeant, patrol lieutenant, interim chief of police, international police advisor, where I was responsible for teaching third world country law enforcement officers. My current role as a patrol lieutenant, I'm not only responsible for administration duties, but patrolling, taking calls as needed, providing and facilitating training to patrol officers. I'm an instructor of many high-risk topics or high liability topics. My job is to reduce the risk for the county in teaching those. My ETF was signed in, the salary is consistent with years of service of other senior officers. You'll see I'm a year or two behind one of them. But my training and experience, the sheriff and I both thought met up towards the same salary. If not, it should be close to it. The sheriff and I signed the ETF, submitted it, then the sheriff ended up having a conversation with Austin relating to the pay. There were some concerns that the pay was going to be higher than current sergeant salaries. The board has said in the past, in fact, I've had conversations with Austin in the past, where, you know, it's in some locations, subordinates make more than supervisors. And the board has said on recording that, you know, that's pretty common up on the Hill in Freeport. So didn't think much about it. And I was actually surprised that this ETF was contested so hard. So the sheriff and Austin spoke on the phone. The sheriff provided a different dollar amount that I thought we were going to go with. And then I was surprised to find a complete different dollar amount on the ETF you were provided from what the sheriff said was going to go through. So I'm disappointed, quite honestly. I even have to have this conversation with you. I know you guys have tried really hard to take care of your employees, and I am very grateful for that. My issue is there's no consistency based on pay. My pay should be my future pay. I guess I should have started with that. I am stepping down as a patrol lieutenant with the new administration of the sheriff coming in. I had planned on staying in my position, but the new sheriff-elect is bringing in a patrol lieutenant. And I'm excited to have him, new eyes, new ideas. I'm old. Let's see how we change. But there's no consistency in pay. I wish that you look at this, not immediately approve this consent agenda, but review it for what is consistent in pay and what is fair. Keeping in mind the discussions that we've had in the past relating to supervisor and subordinates pay. Oh my God.
You're out of time.
All
We're
right.
way out, but.
And then again, I brought up Danielle Rodriguez.
The time is out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Crandall.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, thank you for allowing me to get up here and speak on this agenda item. With the current administration coming into office, Sheriff-elect Ellison has already got his new administration coming in. Like Lieutenant Easley, I am stepping down as chief deputy, going back to patrol. As the documents that I had sent you, gave to you earlier at the call to the public, you can see that there's 2 ETF forms there. One is one that I signed back on November 25th with Sheriff Sumner. Sheriff Sumner and I had a lengthy conversation about that. With all my years of experience and training and the supervisory stuff that I have done, he felt it would be right to put me with people that are equal to my years of service. Which one of those employees that are already at the 38, 33 is around the same years of service that I already have. I also am an instructor on several DILs. And then going off of conversations that I've had with Sheriff Sumner on Friday, I was told that he's been in discussion with Mr. Adams over the pay. And I was told that he didn't agree with the original ETF employee transaction form. And in fact, that he was using a different type of algorithm to come up with a different pay. I didn't agree with that algorithm. It'll go past my 3 minutes to talk about that. So I don't want to do that. And then when I received my board packet on Monday, even the figure that he originally spoke to Sheriff Sumner on Friday didn't match what he had originally said. And one of the things that I've learned over my 20 years, or should say 18 years in law enforcement, even my my academy sergeant would always preach was consistency. Consistency is key. Even when ASIP was teaching our supervisors last week, they also brought up the consistency. And I would just like to stay consistent with the other staff that have equal or about the same amount of years of service that I already have. And at that point, I guess I'll be closing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Next, Danielle Rodriguez. Good morning, Ms. Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Danielle Rodriguez. I've been employed since 2002. I've done detention, patrol, and back into dispatch. I'm here today to speak on my behalf in regards to maintaining my current rate of pay, as I have voluntarily demoted from the sergeant's position. I ask that my request be approved due to the fact that I am a non-exempt employee covered under Personnel Policy 114, Pay Plan Section H under demotion, which states, an employee who is voluntarily demoted or involuntary demoted for non-disciplinary reasons may be retained at the same level rate held prior to the demotion, subject to the approval of the department head. And the department head, Sheriff Tim Sumner, has approved. I took this job in February of 2017 and received a 5% increase, which was around 80 cents. At this time, Human Resource Director Austin Adams has proposed, after reviewing my salary history, that my pay be cut over 12%. This is more than I received for taking this position. On Friday, I was advised by the sheriff, after deliberations with Austin, he had recommended $23.13. But after I made my intent to voice my displeasure and speak on the issue, I had received an ETF from the sheriff showing the proposed pay went down to $24.88, which was way over 12%. I would like to address it as to why it has been reverted back again to a lower rate. At this time, I feel it is punitive and that I am being retaliated against because I questioned on why the policy was being disregarded. And it even states in the same policy, when an employee is involuntarily demoted for the disciplinary reasons, his or her salary shall be reduced to a step in the grade for a lower classification, which shall result in a lower pay of at least 2.5%. So I ask, why propose over 12% decrease in my pay? I am asking that you approve my request in accordance of this policy. If you do not approve my request, I ask that you do not take more than 2.5% of my pay. And I just wanted to add in, the reason I wanted to demote is because I want to spend more time with my family and not work excessive overtime and being on call. I'm burnt out because dispatch is a position that not too many people want to do. It's time consuming, it's emotionally draining. And I feel that I'm being disciplined as a result of my request to demote. And I don't believe this is okay. I appreciate your time. And then I also have my employee transaction form. And then I actually do have the personnel policy that shows the pay plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Austin, would you please?
Let me give you guys kind of an update here. So within the wage process, anytime we're looking at wages, we go through our adopted scale. Our adopted scale was adopted in the 23-24 budget year. Let me share a screen with you. And we use this scale that you'll see. I'm going to move it to a different one. This is the overall scale that it's adopted, that you guys adopted 23-24 budget year. And this gives a minimum range. If you look over, get my mouse to show up. There it is. So it gives a minimum range, and then it also gives a maximum range. So how we've done this since I came in we adopted these scales. These scales are based on a 30-year period. So from the time you get there to the end should be close to 30 years, right? Compensation is not an exact science. It's to get you close, right? We're going to have a little bit of places that are very close, but they should be within range. So when we go down and look at these, this is, we'll start with the deputy side of this. The deputies range is 2547 to 3566, right? You hear both of Paul and Mark as well, both mentioned they're 30, 38, and you'll see it on those ETFs, 38, 33, right? Those are we have two individuals currently, they're out of scale, right? They are over scale. They don't fit into that scale.
Are those two anomalies? And why
Those
is the reason for that?
Those are two anomalies. Those both came in before this scale was started this way. They are high, not only here, but they're high across the counties in the state. So they are both off scale. That's, sometimes when somebody's been here for a long time, there may have been times in the past they took a position and were demoted and the wage didn't come down with it. And it creates those anomalies. In this particular situation, we go through, and I'll bring up this other sheet. Give it just a second, sorry. So we go through and do the calculation. We'll go through and look at their previous experience, go through and put the years based on what that is. And then there's an adjuster on there. If I'm in the role I am as deputy administrator and I want to step down to be an administrative assistant and work with Carolyn and Laura, I'll effectively get a percentage of what I've done as an administrator. So if I've been here 5 years, I'm probably going to get a 20% multiplier, maybe 30. So I might end up with a year of experience. So I'll make what a year of experience admin would. Both of the ladies that work there have tremendously more than that. They would make more than me. And going to the comment of, supervisors, sometimes you do have deputies that make more than supervisors. That is totally true, right? That's true in all organizations. In this particular case, we have a supervisor that makes 35 and change an hour, that has 24 years of experience, 23.1 when you look at the adjustment. And if we look at Mr. Crandall's here, we see there's 19.56 based on an adjustment factor, right? You'll see the multiplier of 7 first time as chief deputy, right? Not giving it 100% of deputy because that is not 100% of the duty. So when we go through and do the calculations based on that scale, that 30-year scale, we come up actually to 3212. And the number you'll see in your ETF is 3320. That's a mistake on my part. That multiplier should have been 30, and I think it was set at 27 for whatever reason in that. 33 is still within range. It still falls within where that is. If we wanted to go that 19 strictly based on where the scale sits, it would be 3212. But again, that adopted number is 3320. That's what's on the ETFs. Paul's, if you look at his, is very similar. His is a little bit more at 20.41. That information, again, if we go to our scale and we look across, we have 32.31. And again, my apologies, I had a multiplier wrong on that. I think it was divided by 27 instead of 30. So we see 33.59 on there. Again, when I talk about comp isn't perfect, there is range for movement, right? A lot of times we'll see this if we have somebody butting up too close to a supervisor, and they may say, okay, we want to put them right here. We don't want to give them any extra, or they want to give them some credit. They have some moves. Going back to the comment that the sheriff made, was, do we want to, what these numbers are different than what they were told, right? When me and the sheriff discussed those numbers, we went over to try to figure out a way to get to a point that he was satisfied with, right? And at the end of the conversation, he told me, no, we're going with what's on the paper. And so I reverted back to my numbers instead of that kind of fudge area, I guess is the way to put it, where there's a little bit of flex to stay within that compensation scale.
And is it possible to change the highlight on those to yellow or something?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Not quite so dark.
Yes. Is that better?
You may
Sorry.
want to blow it
No,
up
my-
just a bit too.
That one is Paul's. So on Danielle's, hers does not have that movement, right? So that movement could be placed in there, right? To have some, it's not at the number, the 28 number, that we're currently at. Now, granted, Danielle is 100% correct. The policy does state, right, that approval by the department head, they can retain their salary.
Actually, let me clarify that. The policy is discretionary. It says it may be retained with the consent of the department head. It's not mandatory.
With that being said, what Derek is saying, but either way with that, when we think about wages, I don't believe that's the best wage choice for the department. Again, with the new sheriff-elect, this is a decision you guys can make today. This is also a decision that can be put to the new sheriff-elect.
Mr. Chairman, on that note as well, this is a process that Austin goes through regardless whether it's a new employee in public works as a custodial position or a grader driver or heavy equipment operator, a new employee in any of the other elected offices, the same process. And it consistently applies that, taking into account relevant experience, experience period, but certainly relevant experience in county positions. So for example, being a deputy county sheriff in another county certainly gives some credit for that, but you get more if you've spent your career here because you're familiar already with policies, areas, and so forth. That exercise that Austin goes through is consistently applied across departments, across offices, regardless, to try and obtain that consistency. And it's been happening for quite a while.
So just real quick, there's a lot of moving pieces, right? And so what
Definitely.
Danielle had talked about was the involuntary demoted for disciplinary reasons. That would be result in lower pay of at least 2.5%. So that's for disciplinary reasons. So that doesn't fit in this case right now, right? And I do see that on the voluntary demotion that it may be retained at the same salary rate held prior to the demotion. I think number one, I do agree with consistency. I want to be consistent. I want to be fair. I want to be right and just, right? That's what we want to do. And so my number one is follow the policy. And so I get that, but our policy is in this case is a little vague, but we do have a schedule, right, that we need to follow, if that's part of our policy and we've adopted that policy. All right, my first question is that, and this is a question, but I feel that getting all of this information late Friday or late Monday is a little difficult for us to try to make a decision right now. So what does that do to us if we were to table this to the next meeting to give the new sheriff-elect, who is going to be overseeing this, to give them input? I want to ask, how does that impact us? Because I don't feel comfortable in all of the data that we're looking at, because I haven't even looked at the schedule yet to kind of factor in these numbers to see where they land. What does that do to us? And I guess that's a question either for you, Austin, or for Derek.
And I have a comment also. I feel the same way. I'm inundated with this information and that information there. I understand where we're going with this, but I wasn't familiar with this personnel policy situation. And I mean, it clearly states there, although it does say, yeah, may retain. But I feel the same way. I think I'd like to sit down and kind of have this. I'd like to go through this a little more thoroughly than just now. I agree. I totally agree with Supervisor.
Let me give you a couple of reasons why it showed up the way it did and some of the options the board has available to it. First of all, looking at 11409, which is a statute, says that the county officers enumerated in section 11401, which are the constitutional row officers, by and with the consent of, and at salaries fixed by the board, may appoint deputies, so forth and so on. So the ultimate decision on salaries lies with the board. In situations, it is not uncommon for an ETF to come in. Austin reviews those regardless where they come from. Once that is in place, that person may have already been in their position, new position, a raise, a promotion, demotion, new hire. Once you approve it, the salary that you set goes back to the date of hire. So in this case, the changes in position are scheduled to take place on December 31st. So the day before the new administration takes place. So if we address this again on January 7th at our next board meeting, whatever you decide would be backdated to the date of the demotion, voluntary demotion in all three cases.
But they would continue to get their current salary until we decide that. Is that right?
If you did nothing else at all, they would get their current salary that they're currently in with their administrative position.
Right.
Until that takes place. And then you would set you're right, at that point, the elected sheriff would be in office and he could weigh in and give you his advice on what to do with this, or his thought. Ultimately, the decision is yours and it will be backdated. So from, and my recommendation would be if let's say you decide to go with Austin's numbers on January 7th, I would say that those 7 days, they continue with their current salary they're making right now today for those 7 days. If you were to go with Sheriff Sumner's recommendation, that would start from January 7th going forward. If you went with Austin's recommendation, it would start with January 7th going forward. If you set, for example, today, and you went with Austin's suggested number today to take effect January 31st, and then you changed it on January 7th based on the recommendation of the sheriff hired, then I would say it would go back and we would say you will not lose any dollars for that. So they would stay at whatever and be backdated to the beginning of the demotion. So in other words, the employees do not lose out under any circumstance, but we certainly have time if the board's discretion is to unpack this in more detail on January 7th, then those employees will not be hurt in the interim. And if I'm wrong on that, Austin, correct me.
No, that's correct. And we would fix that on the payroll side to make sure it runs properly.
I just feel that I know that it's punting, but hey, yeah, get this guy out of here. But it is because honestly, it's for me, I don't have enough information to make a decision because I really want to look at the salary schedule and sometimes you got to dumb it down for me and I'm all right with that. But one, we want to be consistent. We want to be fair. We don't want to create two more anomalies, right? Which is what we have right now. We have two. We don't want to create two more. But I just want to follow my moral compass, as I mentioned, is saying that we need more information to make a good decision on this. And if we can wait until January 7th, our family won't be impacted. But we can make a decision going forward at that point. And I agree. That's my opinion.
Okay. And we certainly have a thorough analysis ready for you.
That's what I need. In more than a day's notice, right?
Correct. And this one did develop, this is unusual in as much as that discussion, that negotiation, if you will, that Austin described is taking place and attempted to be taking place here. But that's usually taken care of before, and these things are routinely handled on consent agenda because of that.
Yeah.
In this case, late on Friday, we discovered that Sheriff Sumner did not want to agree to a number with Austin Adams, and so it was placed on as it was. Late in the game, we understood.
And I just want to make a final comment that I can't defend either what they said and whether and how it was presented. So I'm like Supervisor Campbell. I need some more information. I need to sit down. I need to evaluate this whole thing, and because I do want to be fair about it also. So, yeah.
I have one question, Austin, and it's we've tried to be fair and consistent, and we bring up consistency. your recommendation is consistent with past action and with the policy as you view it, is it not?
Yes, it is.
I. With that, gentlemen, it sounds like, a motion would be in order. It sounds like you want to table this.
Well, I move that we table agenda item 8F for further review until the next meeting, January the 7th.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for the information.
And thank you, staff, for what you do.
Yeah.
And I, like I say, I wanted to. That statement that it is consistent. Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 9, supervisor reports, Mr. Gomez.
I don't have anything to share.
I don't have any share for this meeting.
Okay, I did have an opportunity to meet with Senator Gowan. I asked him about what he saw the future of the next legislative session. Of course, the questions that's asked before every session starts is, are they gonna be a long session? Everybody says it's gonna be a short session. He says it's gonna go till sometime in June. He says especially with some of the things, and he didn't have any, to Derek's point, he didn't have any topics, and generally by now, you know, you have water, you have something that they're going to be a lot of discussion about. Last year, I think we had over 90 bills on water. And nothing ever became of any of them, really. In fact, to balance the budget, they swept money that previous legislation had put into funds. So, anyway, on the RS, the secure rural schools, that is concern, gentlemen. I know the WIR, Western Interstate Region, that will affect every public land county, and it will affect to the negative, especially those counties that run their school system completely on secure rural schools money. And with that, just a point of privilege, gentlemen, I want you to know how much I've appreciated working with you. And imitation David, I saw he wore a white shirt.
Yeah.
You know, that's the greatest source of flattery.
Get him a great jacket next.
Anyway, I want to thank the county family for all their years of service. I've appreciated this job, and sometimes people didn't agree with our decisions, but I believe our moral compass was we were trying to do the right thing. That has always been the objective of myself and my fellow board members. With that, I wish everyone the best of luck, good health to you and your families. Continue to do a good job, because you are what makes Greenlee County good. It's the employees. Yes, we set direction and stuff, but it's you that are in the trenches every day that make and serve the public, make things good. I appreciate the administration. Derek, you know, I know this board doesn't always agree with you, and people don't see that, but you know what? You're doing a great job in many arenas. Your staff, Renee and the staff in the open front office. I appreciate them. They do a fantastic job. All the other elected officials, you have great staff. You hired great staff, and that's what makes your office function. Law enforcement, you know, they do so many things that nobody even knows that they do, and they do it day after day after day. Do they get thanked for it? Do we get thanked? But that's who we are. And so, thank you for indulging that point of privilege. I appreciate everyone, and I hope everyone the merriest of Christmas, and may God bless you in your life endeavors. Thank you. And with that, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Picture with the board and Sherry in front of the.
Oh, you bet.